In this video, I'd like to talk about autistic intelligence. Because in the past, autism, and at the time it was, the terminology of the time was mental retardation, were nearly synonymous. Because 69% of autistic children and adults in the 1980s were also diagnosed with mental retardation, or now we call it intellectual disability. In 2014, only 30% autistic individuals have intellectual disability. What's happened? It's not that they suddenly develop differently. No, it's diagnostic expansion. Now broader criteria and better awareness. So more and more people are diagnosed. And of course, now autistic people with intellectual disability are in minority, marginalized completely. Because now the majority of autistic people have normal and above normal intelligence. But from the very beginning of genetic research, what was noticed is many of the genes associated with autism also overlap with intellectual disability. And what I want to emphasize that intellectual disability, there is intellectual disability and intellectual disability. For example, intellectual disability in Down syndrome and intellectual disability in autism, they're very different. It is not the same, and it's been very noticeable. That's why I want to talk about autistic intelligence, because what is considered disability, it is very, very different. But first, what is intelligence? Many definitions, no consensus. The best consensus are what is intelligence? Intelligence is something we measure with IQ tests. It's not satisfactory, but still the majority explain it like this. And there are IQ tests, well established, measuring verbal IQ, language and reasoning, and performance IQ, nonverbal tasks. But for many autistic people, they are not good enough because they cannot measure autistic intelligence. What I mean is, these tests measure how a person can function, can answer the questions for everyone, right? So it is not autistic intelligence. I want to talk about different kind of intelligence, which is present in autism. Hans Asperger, he described it as something original, something pure, this unorthodox, unconventional intelligence. And we have a lot of proof and examples. Temple Grandin, her special visual abilities are so good. Not many non-autistic people can do something she can. They are exceptional. Can they be measured by this existent IQ tests? No. All these abilities, the majority abilities of autistic people, they are not language-based. They are sensory-based, if you like Temple Grandin's visual and special abilities. So that's why nobody measures them. They are not in. Nobody is interested in it because the majority of people do not possess these abilities. Another very important thing is the way we perceive the world are different, right? We talked a lot about it already. It means their development is sensory-based. Their concepts are sensory-based. Their knowledge is sensory-based. It means they accumulate knowledge. They accumulate information differently. They store it differently, and they retrieve it differently. So there are two ways of accumulating information. The first one is conscious language-based processing. It is very typical. And those autistic people who do better on this test, they also use this language processing style of accumulating information. But there is another way, very typical for autistic individuals like Temple Grandin and Autistic Intelligence. It is pre-conscious, sensory-based processing. It's very common among autistic people such as Donna Williams and others, whose processing, whose understanding, whose accumulating information is sensory-based. And like Donna described it, it is a waking subconscious mind absorbing vast amount of literal, unprocessed information indirectly. We remember that direct perception is not very functional in autism, right? Painful sometimes. They accumulate this information and they don't know that they've done it. That's why it is preconscious stage of receiving information. And what is interesting, that when this information is triggered, they answer the questions, for example, and show their knowledge. And they do not only surprise the listener, often they are surprised themselves that they know it. Donna Williams writes a lot about it, and she called this phenomenon as unknown knowing. Sometimes they don't know that they know this, because this information was preconscious. And unfortunately, what is sort of not very good, they cannot access it deliberately. This information can be triggered. By the way, research supports the idea of these different neural mechanisms which are involved in conscious and subconscious processing. And it explains a lot in Autistic Intelligence. And this Temple Grandin, she says that this sensory-based thinking is subconscious in most autistic individuals. She means like her and others who were diagnosed in childhood. And this brings some unique advantage, such as, for example, sensory memory. She, of course, describes visual memory, but it is true also for other modalities. Our pattern recognition and intuition of complex systems, of complex phenomenon. And some autistic individuals, they switch between these two modes, conscious and subconscious. Some rely only one of them, like my son, I think, and Donna Williams and Temple Grandin, they rely on sensory-based accumulation of information. And that's why they develop multiple cognitive styles. And these styles, these ways, are not measured by IQ tests, unfortunately, because we haven't got tests developed to measure these abilities, perhaps because we didn't know they existed. Another cognitive style, cognitive, is it the right word for this? I don't know, is resonance and merging. If you read Donna Williams' books, you are familiar with this, because some autistic individuals are very intelligent in this style. They can resonate with and merge with stimuli and people, plants, animals. So they get information from inside of objects or plants because they resonate with them, or sometimes even merge with them. Again, can we measure this with these conventional IQ tests? No. This extraordinary sensitivity and intuition and understanding of the world is so unconventional many people can't even imagine that these ways of understanding the world exist. And this, what I mean, is autistic intelligence. Not because they're better than non-autistic people on block design tests or whatever. It's not. It's very different. Non-autistic people are not intelligent in the ways of autistic resonance merging, visual spatial abilities, and so on and so forth. But so if they are so clever, and they are, so intelligent, and they aren't they disabled or not? Yes, they are. Because there is intellectual disability and functional disability. That's when in the beginning, I said Down syndrome intellectual disability and autistic intellectual disability are very different. They are not stuck in their development. They are not slow, like sometimes Down syndrome, they start very slow. Their development is very uneven. In some areas, right, they are very good. In others, no, they're hopeless. And this uneven development and these different styles of accumulation information result in their abilities and disabilities. Functional disability, it is difficulty to function in their culture, in the society. They cannot do certain things which are so easy for others. By the way, my son is 37. I am ashamed to say I couldn't do it. I tried many times, and he still cannot tie his laces. Yeah, I found the solution. I buy him shoes without laces, but he just can't. His motor function is very, very different, and other things. So it is one thing to be intelligent, right? Autistically intelligent, and understand the world. In some cases, much better than non-autistic people, because from absolutely different perspective. But the other is to function, right? To live independently, because some autistic individuals, especially nonverbal, they are very clever. Many of them are. We just don't see it sometimes. But if you start looking for those abilities, you will see them. I promise you will see them. Just accept that they understand everything differently. They take information in differently. And sometimes you think you ask a simple question and they cannot answer it. It doesn't mean they're stupid. No, no, they can't find the right words. They can't express it. It doesn't mean they don't know or they don't understand. But there are these individuals, as I said, especially nonverbal or echolalic autistic individuals, and they can't live independently. They need support 24/7. Like my son, for example, like other people I used to work with, and I know they go to the same day center, they can't live independently. This is the main worry, because they cannot. My son, he has no concept of money. Why do we need money? Why can't we? And when he goes shopping, we go together, of course, right? Sometimes because he is echolalic, he will use certain phrases I understand, others don't. See, he needs someone to be with him. And this is functional disability, not intellectual disability, because yes, he is echolalic. Yes, he needs someone, but he can do. He knows a lot, to be honest. He is bilingual. Let us put it this way. His memory is perfect. he reminds me, because sometimes I forget words in Russian, for example, and I ask him and he says it. And mind, he was nonverbal, absolutely nonverbal till he was 7. And he remembers the words and the books I've read for my children at the time. And if it, this is triggered, he can recite children's book I read for them by heart. It is there. No excess, no voluntary excess, it should be triggered to these memories. But his memory and memory of many autistic individuals whom we think are intellectually disabled, their memory is very good. So the access to this memory should be triggered. It's different, right? But still, my main point is autistically, they are more intelligent than autistic individuals who are doing very well on conventional IQ tests. So, and this difference is very visible for those who know about it and can see these patterns by their behavior, by their even echolalic utterances, and so on and so forth. Autistically, they are much, much more intelligent than non-autistic people, and autistic level 1 people, for example, who do not possess these abilities. And by the way, many research studies confirm these abilities, autistic intelligence. Again, to remind you, what do we measure with IQ tests? Either the development is slow or stuck, yes, but not autistic intelligence, not proper autistic intelligence. And this, Donna Williams writes a lot about it. I do recommend her books to everyone. She describes, for example, how she could detect subtle shifts in the sound of footsteps or the noise of a car approaching the house. She would predict what will happen next, even the mood of the person in the car or the person approaching. She could detect it. You know why I believe her? She describes my son. When I used to travel a lot and I came home late, for example, from the airport or train station, tired and sometimes angry, for example, right? Because train delays but my son, by the sound I opened the door, the handle, he knew whether it is better to approach mommy and kiss and whatever, or it's better to throw your slippers in the direction of her and wait for her to come down. By the sound of the opening the door. And that's why, see, I find so many explanations in Donna's books. I call it autistic intelligence. I don't know whether you agree or not, but I think their ability to detect this subtle stimulate, these sounds, this energy, call it energy, whatever you want. And it's interesting, they detect people. Again, I will refer to Donna Williams. She described edges of people. Some were soft, some were sharp, and whatever. It's difficult to describe in words because it's not visual or whatever. It's just the feelings. And that's what is autistic intelligence. And to finish for today, many who don't know about autism much, right? They think they are all not intelligent enough. But two autistic women, Jasmine O'Neill from Ireland, that's what she said. And I want you to know these quotes. Big world people, meaning non-autistic people, can be considered idiots in their autistic world too, just as it can be the other way around. And the second quote from Donna Williams, my favorite author: measuring non-autistic people by the autistic type of development would often find them failing miserably and appearing to be thoroughly subnormal by autistic standards. And again, there is autistic intelligence, and those who in the past were diagnosed with mental retardation or now intellectual disabilities, autistically, they are more intelligent than even some autistic people.